Hi, Hillside. Daryl Sieplinga from the council, along with Ron Kool, the man, the myth, and the legend. And we're pleased to partner together to give you the January council update.
Thanks, Daryl. After the holidays, we got back into a more normal rhythm of our meeting schedule, and even in spite of the weather, we had good attendance. One of the things we talked about was canceling the in-person services on January 14. Whenever we do something like that, we take into account a number of things: the roads, the weather, the volunteers, the staff who needs to come in, and so on, and trying to figure out how to best put together a service, or whether it's just best to cancel. Obviously, we decided to cancel the in-person service, but we still decided to offer the message online, and would be curious to get feedback on that. Was that helpful for people? Some people had suggested, well, if you're going to do that, can we come in and at least be part of watching that live? And so if you have thoughts on that, again, we had talked about even doing one or two songs, but then the complexity increases so much, and the number of volunteers we have to get here. It was good, I think, for us to be able to be together Sunday morning, even though it was virtual. And it does kind of remind us that God was able to bring something good out of COVID. Our ability to be online and to have a service like that was impacted, and we learned to do that better during COVID. And so we're thankful for that. And in fact, many churches have discovered that online services are now the new front door. That's how people check you out. They don't show up. They go online and check you out there. So it was unfortunate that we had to cancel, but we want people to be safe, and the volunteers and so on. And if you have feedback, let us know.
Thanks, Ron. And my reference in the introduction, by the way, was about a hot mic moment, which was a good hot mic moment for Ron near the very start of that.
The man, the myth, the legend. And Daryl, I want to just say, when I said the man, the myth, the legend, I was referring to Cameron, not to myself.
Got it.
I didn't claim that for myself. Cameron is the man, the myth, the legend.
Got it. Thanks, Ron. We had a great opportunity at January's council meeting, too, to get an update from Kirk Kingsley, who is the director of middle school, high school, and men's ministry. And that's part of a process that we're doing on a regular basis with all of the staff to get their updates and to provide support. Because one of the things that the council highlighted as one of the most important things we can do is support the staff in the very best way possible. And we see that as a mechanism to do that, to gain some insight and get some feedback. So Kirk, as you know, has taken on added responsibilities in the last year, adding the high school component to his ministry portfolio, if you will. And so he has the high school and middle school and men's ministry programs. And so he talked about what's developing with that. We're really encouraged with the increased participation on the high school side. So there's some good news to report there. Upcoming, there's a high school retreat here in January, and then the first weekend in February, a middle school retreat. He's anxious to have those be successful, and so your prayers for that would be appreciated. And then, of course, the planning is underway for a summer program in Montana for the high school program. So that's going to happen in July. And so the training of the students for that, the preparation of the young people for that is important. Kirk also talked about the challenges of the programs and keeping volunteers both engaged and encouraged. And he's delighted that we have 7 middle school volunteers and 2 high school volunteers, but keeping the volunteers engaged and having sufficient volunteers is really important. We're thankful for those that we have, but want to make sure to keep those folks supported in prayer and encouragement. And then another challenge has to do with the fact that the middle school program is a pretty wide age range. And Kirk is wrestling with the best way to respond to that wide age range and making sure that 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds make big changes, and there's a wide range of interests and that kind of thing. And so Kirk is tapping his creativity and thinking about how to best manage that. Kirk also is responsible for shepherding, if you will, the men's ministry program and the two groups that are involved and engaged in the wonderful opportunities that many ages of men and can be engaged in that in both learning and fellowship and building communities. So those are really great things. We had a chance to pray with and for Kirk, too, is part of our council meeting, and for the ministries that he's involved in and for his family. And so we invite the whole congregation to continue to join with us and pray for those important ministries that we have and for the Kingsley family.
Thanks, Daryl. Yeah. We also spent some time talking once again about the human sexuality report and the denomination and what's going on there. And part of what we want to say, several things we want to communicate to you. Part of it is, we're trying to do this kind of in bite-sized pieces. It's not the central focus of our church, but it does impact us all in terms of how do we treat each other? How do we handle divisive issues? How do we kind of go through these sorts of struggles, and what does it mean to walk together? And so it's been good for us to reflect on it, to take some time. And again, one of the things we want to remind all of us about is that when we talk about human sexuality, we're not talking about primarily an issue. We're talking about people. People who are created in God's image, who are loved by God. And the fact is, all of us deal with human sexuality issues. We all have challenges. Sin impacts that area of life for all of us. And so we got to remember that we're talking about people here, not just an issue that's out there. And so part of our attention has been saying, how do we love people well, who disagree with us, but also who are in situations that we say, this is a challenging situation for them. How do we love well? How do we support? How do we care for folks like that? How do we create a church at Hillside where everyone is welcome, worthy, and has a place? We're all broken sinners, and we all need a place. And so kind of that's why this has been when we've tried to use this not just to say we're talking about a specific little issue, though it's a large one, but we're talking about community and love and caring for each other. Specifically, one of the things we wanted to touch on that we spent some time with is what's going on at the denominational level is there's a possibility of a change in a thing that we call a gravamen, which is a big word that we use to say if someone is struggling with a confessional issue, if somebody says, I'm not 100% sure exactly on how I think about this, or I'm not sure that, on this matter of whatever it is, whether it's end times or infant baptism, but I'm rethinking some of that. This gravamen allows somebody to have some space to say, I'm not going to promote any views that are outside of the church's views, but I want to explore that. And so this allows that. And the change that's being contemplated is to put a time limit on that and to minimize and to make that saying you only have a certain amount of time. 6 months has been one of the suggestions. Well, most of us don't work through a lot of stuff that quickly. And as a council, we said, we want to ask them not to put a time limit on that and specify 6 months, but rather give room for the council to provide guidance and support and community as we work through things together. So we're going to send that on to classes, and we'll see if they'll join us in sending it on to Synod. But again, it's recognizing, and as a church, we continue to hold to the traditional position the church has held throughout the years and the ages and so on. But we also recognize that there are folks who are going to disagree, and we want to make sure we hold tight to the things that are essential, but also give grace in the things where there needs to be room for discussion and growth and learning and care.
Thanks, Ron. I appreciate, by the way, your leadership of the council as we kind of walk through this process together. And my hope is that as we do that, our council and our church can be city on the hill side, if you will, to be able to say, hey, that's a church that that deals with differences and disagreements without being disagreeable, and how wonderful and refreshing that would be in the culture in general if we could do that. And if Hillside could be a model of that to others, I think we'd be a blessing to others as well. So finally, we received the December financial report as well, and it continued great news. As I mentioned last month, December is counted upon as a major area of contributions for folks. Lots of people plan their year-end giving around that, and the Hillside congregation once again responded really well, and we're thankful for that. Our contributions are about a little less than 8% higher than budgeted, and so we're thankful for that. They were higher in December once again than was budgeted, and expenses are lower than budgeted. And doesn't take a genius in mathematics to know that that's a good situation. So both about nearly 8% better than budget. And so that puts us in a good position for moving through making decisions in year end, and not to be, not to be struggling with how to make ends meet. Not that we'll continue to be great stewards of the resources, and as you all continue to do that as well. So we're thankful. Really, we continue to be prayerful about how we move together as a congregation, and want you to be prayerful with us and give us feedback as a council and as staff leaders. And one of the things that, in conclusion, one of the things that we're doing is trying to do and put together a regular feedback and evaluation process for the council, for the staff, and we'll be doing that and probably asking for your input as we do that over the coming months. So both prayer and feedback will be important for us, and so we're thankful for that. As we seek to be a church that follows Jesus, loves others, and builds community, thanks once again, Hillside, and we hope that your first part of the year starts out well, and we continue to work together well.